Hey everyone, it's Abdallah here with a sponsored video by Nintendo informing viewers everything they want to know about the Nintendo Switch Lite. By the end of this video, you'll be able to make an informed decision on whether or not the Nintendo Switch Lite is worth purchasing. Now, as soon as I was invited to the hands-on Nintendo Switch Lite preview event, I went to my social media and asked viewers what they were curious about. After reading all the feedback, I now present you the top 20 questions about Nintendo Switch Lite answered. Before we get into all the viewer-submitted questions, let's start with what is a Nintendo Switch Lite? The Nintendo Switch Lite is a smaller variant of the Nintendo Switch. The main draw is that it's primarily focused on the gamer on the go, having access to only handheld mode compared to the other Nintendo Switch's tabletop, handheld, and docked modes. The reasoning behind making a Nintendo Switch Lite is to allow more of a choice for end consumers. Having more buying choices is always better, especially if it's a new console like this. Let's get on with the questions. Question number 1. How much does it cost and when does it launch? Looks like we're kicking off our list pretty easily. The release date for the Nintendo Switch Lite is September 20th, 2019, and it will launch at an MSRP of $199.99 US. If you compare that to the original Nintendo Switch, it's a savings of about $100. Question number 2, can you share save data and a digital library? Now, this was one of the most asked viewer-submitted questions, and I'm happy to tell you yes. I was informed that if you already own a Nintendo Switch and you'd like to share your save data with a Nintendo Switch Lite, or if you'd like to play games from your original Nintendo Switch's digital library, you can do so. This makes it perfect for you to leave the original Nintendo Switch connected to the dock and TV while using the Nintendo Switch Lite on the go. Question number 3, is there any LAN compatibility? This question was more geared towards how you're able to connect a LAN adapter to the original Nintendo Switch dock in order to play games like Super Smash Bros. Ultimate and Splatoon 2 online hardwired versus using spotty internet Wi-Fi. And since there's no dock compatibility with the Nintendo Switch Lite, there's no LAN adapter compatibility either. Question number 4, is there motion controls for games? Yes, motion controls in games such as The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Splatoon 2 work the exact same way as the original Nintendo Switch. For games like Super Mario Party, Just Dance, and 1-2 Switch, there won't be any detached Joy-Con motion control compatibility. But if you purchase a spare set of Joy-Con controllers, you'll be able to play those games by connecting the detached Joy-Con accordingly. Question 5, is there any Joy-Con drift? Joy-Con drift has been an unintended mechanical issue with some of the detached Joy-Con controllers of the original Nintendo Switch, where they would register movement even though none was physically pressed. According to the representatives at Nintendo, the control sticks on the Nintendo Switch Lite will work as intended. Question 6, how does the durability compare? When I was playing some of the games on the Nintendo Switch Lite, the console felt pretty solid. Although the data of dropping a Nintendo Switch Lite off a building hasn't been made yet, I feel that it seems a bit more durable than the original Nintendo Switch. Since the Nintendo Switch Lite doesn't have detachable Joy-Con controllers, I feel that there are less moving parts to worry about, especially if you're intending on purchasing a Nintendo Switch Lite for a younger gamer. Question number 7, how is the audio quality compared? Nintendo has confirmed that the audio hardware is the exact same as the original Nintendo Switch, so you have no worries when it comes time to blast the volume. Question number 8, can you connect to a TV? Well, this was definitely the most asked viewer submitted question. The answer is no, and here's why. Nintendo wanted to make the Nintendo Switch Lite to focus on portable gameplay and portable gameplay only. Not to mention the fact that the price point is approximately $100 cheaper compared to the original Nintendo Switch. Nintendo's focus is to give consumers more options to choose from. If you want the ability to play your Nintendo Switch on your TV, then get the original Nintendo Switch with the included dock for MSRP of $299. If you find yourself playing in handheld mode more often than connected to a TV, and you're looking to capitalize on the vastly growing Nintendo Switch library while saving $100, get the Nintendo Switch Lite. I personally would have liked to have seen some sort of backwards compatibility with the Nintendo Switch Lite, where although it wouldn't come with a dock, you'd still be able to put it in an existing dock or have the option to purchase one separately. Question number 9, will there be more colors? Well, that's a little too early to tell. The current launch lineup comes with yellow, gray, and turquoise. If you're a Pokemon fan, you'll also be able to get the limited edition Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield variant of the Nintendo Switch Lite. Just take a look at Nintendo's history of how they've handled adding new colors of consoles and controllers, and you can take a guess of whether or not there's going to be new colors in the future. Question 10, is there HD Rumble? That's a big negative on HD Rumble. The Nintendo Switch Lite has removed that feature. Question number 11, how does the screen size compare? The Nintendo Switch Lite screen size measures 5.5 inches from corner to corner, while the original Nintendo Switch measures 6.2 inches from corner to corner. While I was playing the Nintendo Switch Lite, I didn't even notice the slightly smaller screen. Question 12, is there a kickstand on the back? No, there's no kickstand on the back of the Nintendo Switch Lite. From a design aspect, you'll have to think, well, if this is a console designed specifically for handheld use without the detachable Joy-Con controllers, what would be the point of a kickstand? Question number 13. How does the battery life compare? Well, as we know, battery life varies with individual usage, but it's safe to say that the battery life is extended compared to the original Nintendo Switch. A rough estimate shows that the original Nintendo Switch can run anywhere from 2.5 to 6.5 hours, and the Nintendo Switch Lite can run anywhere from 3 to 7 hours. That's approximately 30 minutes longer of runtime. Another figure that Nintendo provided was a comparison of playing The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild on both the original Nintendo Switch and on the Nintendo Switch Lite, which stated that the Nintendo Switch Lite lasted at least an hour longer. Question 14, are there any exclusive features? The only thing that stands out as an exclusive feature on the Nintendo Switch Lite is the D-pad on the left side of the controller, whereas the original Nintendo Switch consoles have the 4 buttons on that spot. Likewise, with the original Nintendo Switch, you're able to purchase Joy-Con controllers with the D-pads separately. Question number 15, how does the weight compare? The Nintendo Switch Lite weighs in at 0.61 pounds, which is indeed lighter than the original Nintendo Switch that weighs in at 0.88 pounds, so definitely lighter. Question 16, how does it charge, and is there an included charge base? The charge port for the Nintendo Switch Lite is the same as the original, a USB-C charging port on the bottom of the console. There will be a supplied cable within the box, but since there's no dock compatibility, there's no charge base included. Question 17. How does the screen resolution compare? Just like the original Nintendo Switch, the Nintendo Switch Lite has the exact same specifications, outputting at 720p with 60 frames per second when in handheld mode. Question 18. Can I stream with it, and how can I record? Well, since there's no dock to input an HDMI cable out to your TV or your capture device, you won't be able to stream with the Nintendo Switch Lite. The only way of recording on the console will be to hold the screen capture button to save the last 30 seconds of gameplay, just like on the original Nintendo Switch. Question number 19. How does the feel of the joysticks compare? Well, taking a look at it, the joysticks on the Nintendo Switch Lite are the exact same joysticks as they are on the original Nintendo Switch. They're not raised any higher, nor do they have any issues moving around. When I was playing Mario Kart 8 Deluxe on the Nintendo Switch Lite, the joysticks felt as smooth as I'm used to. No worries about joysticks poking out of your pocket. And the final question of the video, can you scan Amiibo? The answer is yes. The NFC ability to read and write Amiibo data is still included in the Nintendo Switch Lite. This is great news to those of you who have purchased all sorts of Amiibo in the past and want to continue using them on your new system. Or if you're a new Nintendo Switch Lite owner, you'll be able to hop on the Amiibo hype train, especially with all the new Smash Bros. Ultimate Amiibo releasing. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, everything you wanted to know about the Nintendo Switch Lite. Here's my hot take. Although I'm a little bummed out that it's not able to be placed on an existing dock for TV play, I still feel that the fact that Nintendo is offering another option to get on board with the vastly growing Nintendo Switch library is a smart business decision. As a day one Nintendo Switch owner, I would personally want to leave my Nintendo Switch docked and connected to my computer and TV while taking the Nintendo Switch Lite out with me on business trips and other travel. Although that would be a personal luxury for me, as packing up my original Nintendo Switch would effectively do the exact same thing. I don't expect every original Nintendo Switch owner to drop another $200 for a lighter version. I can see that if you're a fan of handheld gaming exclusively on such systems such as the Nintendo 3DS and don't care much about projecting on a TV, then this is going to be the perfect system for you. I can also see that if you're a parent looking to get a present for your children in order to introduce them to the Nintendo Switch games that you have come to love, then this would be a perfect stepping stone, considering that you can share accounts and your digital library while saving at least $100. Well, what do you guys think of the Nintendo Switch Lite? Did you have a question that wasn't answered in the video? Feel free to drop your questions, thoughts, and feedback in the comment section to keep the conversation going. While you're clicking below the video, if you'd like to order a Nintendo Switch Lite, do me a favor and click on the affiliate link in the description to get yours on Amazon. The yellow one is my favorite, or maybe the gray one. Well, the turquoise one is also good design. What about the Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield version? The colors are so hard to choose from. To conclude, some of us already own a Nintendo Switch, while some of us have been curious about it and on the fence about purchasing one. Regardless of what your situation is, with the release of the Nintendo Switch Lite, there are going to be a few more options for getting gamers on board with the latest releases. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this video helpful, be sure to share it with someone who's curious about the Nintendo Switch Lite, and be sure to subscribe for daily Nintendo content.